have to go the extra mile. So here's what I get asked all the time. People ask me all the time, they say, Andy, how is it that I can break away from the competition? Andy, how is it that I can separate myself from the people who are on the right or the left of me? How is it that I can get recognized? How can I have a breakthrough year? And so if you've ever wondered that question on how you could separate yourself from the competition, or how is it that you can have a breakthrough year, how is it that you can find a way to increase your value in the marketplace, I'm going to give you the answer. But I've got to warn you that it may not be as complicated as you think it's going to be. Yes, I know that there's some people they're hoping that it's going to be a very complicated answer so they can justify why they haven't been making it happen. And so if you've got a note and a paper, here's what I want you to write this down. And it's very simple. You've heard this expression before, but you simply have to go the extra mile. That's right. You've got to go the extra mile. As a matter of fact, it was Wayne Dyer who said that it's never crowded along the extra mile. Why is it never crowded along the extra mile? Because most people will never ever go the extra mile. Most people will only do what's required of them. Most people will find a way to cut the corners. Most people don't want to get uncomfortable and push themselves and do more than they're expected to do. And because of that, when you're willing to go the extra mile, because of that, when you're willing to exceed the expectations, because of that, when you're willing to raise the bar, because when you're willing to exceed the expectations of those around you, then all of a sudden, some amazing things begin to happen. And so the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I know this is silly, and I've got to share this with you because every once in a while we just learn a lesson from just one of the most simple things that take place in life. And so what happened is I needed to get the roof pressure cleaned at the house. And so for those of you who don't know, down here in South Florida, we have a lot of climate change going on. It's raining one moment, the sun is beating the other moment. We've got a lot of green trees around. So over time, our roofs, especially for people with tile roofs, over time, they'll begin to have algae on the roofs, and the roofs will become very dark and unattractive. So when that happens, it's time to get the roof pressure cleaned. And so I need to get this thing done. I don't have time to be doing all this searching and finding out who I'm going to hire. So I just went on Craigslist and I said the first pressure cleaning ad that I find, I'm calling, and if they can come and do it right away, I'm hiring them. So I go on Craigslist, I find this company, pressure cleaning company, and I go ahead and call them out. And I needed to also get one of my rental properties pressure cleaned. I need to get the driveway pressure cleaned. And so I call this company up. They say, hey, no problem. We're going to take care of it first thing on Monday. And he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the rental property. As soon as we leave the rental property, we're going to come to your personal home. And so sure enough, the guy went to the rental property, knocks on my front door. As soon as he gets there, I said, listen, did you make it to my rental property? He says, absolutely. He says, as a matter of fact, let me show you something. And right away, he pulls out his little iPhone, and he already has the before and after pictures. And as I'm looking at the before and after pictures, I just expected this guy to pressure clean the driveway, but no, he didn't stop there. He pressure cleaned the driveway. He pressure cleaned underneath the carport. He pressure cleaned the walkway, and he pressure cleaned the sidewalk. So right away, this guy has exceeded my expectations. And now it's time for him to pressure clean the roof. And so the average person that gets up on the roof and pressure cleans, most of the time they'll be done in about 2.5 hours. I'm sitting there in the house office, I'm doing work, and it's 4 hours later, and this guy is still on the roof pressure cleaning. I get outside, I walk out to the street, I'm looking back. This guy is getting every single corner, every piece of dirt off the roof. But what happens is, he comes down. And so now I'm thinking the guy's gonna stop, and I'm thinking he's gonna put his equipment away. And next thing I know, he's starting the pressure cleaner back up. And I say, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing? You did a great job. What are you doing now? He said, well, since I'm already here, I'm going to go ahead and do your driveway and the sidewalk. I said, well, I only paid you to do the roof. He says, yeah, I know, but don't worry about it. It's like, wow. And so I just remember going back in the house. And at that point, I literally couldn't work anymore because I felt almost like I had to watch this guy. And so now I'm sort of standing right by the front. I'm looking through the window and I'm seeing this guy is pressure cleaning every single inch, every single millimeter of the driveway. I'm seeing him go out on the sidewalk, and it just so happened that my neighbor was pulling into her driveway, and my neighbor told him, hey, if you don't mind, go ahead and do my sidewalk too. And he said, sure thing, and didn't even ask her for a penny. And so I'm sitting inside, I'm saying to myself, well, what is it? What is it that's in somebody, or what level of expectations does somebody place on themselves to deliver that quality of service? And so let me just tell you, by the time this guy was done, what he had charged me, I felt almost embarrassed to even think for a moment to hand him a check at that price. And so naturally, I had to give this guy a bonus. Naturally, I felt compelled to pay him more. Not because I wanted to be generous, but because he earned it. Why? Because he exceeded my expectations. Why? Because he went the extra mile. And so now I want you to look at your own personal life. And I want you to think about all the different areas in your life where you're looking and you're hoping to separate yourself from the competition. The areas in your life in which you're looking to break through. The areas in your life that you're looking to take to the next level. And I want you to be very honest with yourself and answer the question, are you going the extra mile? Are you exceeding the expectations? Are you holding yourself to a higher standard? And you see, this man, when it was time for me to pay him the check, I was handing him the check. I said, listen, man, you did such an amazing job. I mean, you went above and beyond at my rental property. Then you came here and I just had you do the roof. You did the driveway. You did the sidewalk. You did my neighbor's sidewalk. And he said, listen, I had to give you a little extra something. And I said, man, that's you're special, man. You don't see people who work like you anymore. And he looked me in the face, and here's what he said. He said, listen, he says, this is just my mindset. This is the way that I operate. Any job that I'm doing, I treat it as if it were my own personal house. And when he said that, this is what I learned from that experience. And I want you to write this down if you're a note taker. Here's what I learned. That at some point, you've got to hold yourself to a higher standard. Not because you're expecting to get compensated for it. Not because you're hoping to get recognition. But you hold yourself to a higher standard because it's who you are. It's because it's what you're expecting of yourself. It's not because it's what others are expecting of you, but it's because this is what you expect of yourself. That you say to yourself that if I do this, that I'm going to be the best at it. If I do this, I'm going to give it 100%. If I do this, I'm not going to try to cut corners. If I do this, I'm going to take it beyond the expectations of those around me, because I'm not looking to impress those around me. I'm simply looking to fulfill my own standards for myself. And if you can do that, I'm going to tell you right now, you'll find that slowly but surely, you'll begin to separate yourself from the competition. Slowly but surely, you will create more opportunities for yourself. And slowly but surely, you will realize something that someone taught me very long ago, and I want you to write this down. If you do more than what you are paid for, you will eventually get paid more for what you do. Now, I want you to write this down. And I believe it was Jim Rohn was the first person I heard it. And I know I've definitely heard Les Brown say this. And I want you to write this down. If you do more than what you are paid for, you will eventually get paid more for what you do. And so is the reason why you do more because of the fact that you're simply looking to get paid more? No, 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 no. But what happens is because you're looking to put in more time and more effort, because you're holding yourself to a higher standard, because of the fact that you're exceeding expectations, because of the fact that you're going the extra mile, that when you do that, you can't help but create extra value. When you do that, you can't help but exceed expectations. And if you create more value and if you exceed expectations, eventually the compensation will follow. And so you've got to go the extra mile. You've got to hold yourself to a higher standard. And you've got to dig deep and do those things and place your own requirements upon yourself without anybody else telling you to do it. You see, I didn't go out there and tell the guy, hey, would you mind? Hey, could you hook me up and also do the driveway? I didn't tell him, hey, would you mind also doing my neighbor's sidewalk? Would you mind doing that? No, he holds himself to a higher standard. He says, I'm here now, so I'm going to create the absolute best value that I can. And that's what you've got to do right now in your life. And when it comes in your business, you've got to hold yourself to a higher standard. You've got to be willing to exceed the expectation of your clients. You've got to be able to push yourself and separate yourself from the rest of the competition. Why? Because the rest of the competition is looking to do less and get compensated more. The rest of the competition is looking to cut corners. The rest of the competition, the moment that nobody else is looking, they're going to start cutting corners and not doing the thing that is required of them. But something special happens when you hold yourself to a special standard. Something special happens when you're not concerned about who's watching, because you know that you yourself, you're holding yourself to a higher standard. And when you show up that way, when you decide to move forward on your goals and your dreams and go that extra mile that Wayne Dyer was talking about, that's never ever crowded, because everybody else stays away from the extra mile because it requires you to dig deep. It requires more of your time. It requires more focus. It requires you to raise the bar. And so I want you to think about the place in your life right now where you want to go to the next level. The place in your life where you want to separate yourself from the competition. And I want you to start thinking, how is it that you can exceed the expectations? How is it that you can go the extra mile? But here's one of the things that I realize is that in order for you to exceed the expectations, first you've got to at least be aware of what the standard is. What are people expecting of you right now when it comes to your business? What is your boss expecting of you right now when it comes to your position at the job? What is your spouse expecting from you right now? What is it that those around you are expecting from you? And once you know what they're expecting from you, what you say to yourself is, I want to go beyond that. And so my goal is not just to meet their expectations, but my goal is to go beyond the expectations. And so if they're expecting me to do this, I'm going to hold myself to a higher standard and go beyond their expectations. That's how you go the extra mile. That's how you exceed expectations. That's how you put yourself in position to actually do more than what you're being paid for, so that eventually people will want to pay you more for what you do. And so here's the other thing that I realized, and if you're a note taker, I want you to write this down. That the reason why you want to go the extra mile, the reason why you want to exceed expectations, is because in whatever it is that you do, you want to be the absolute best at what you do. And I'm not telling you from the standpoint of looking around and comparing yourself to everybody else. No, I'm talking about when it comes to your gifts, your skills, your talents, the things that have been given to you by God, that you've got to say to yourself that when I'm in my element, when I'm doing this thing that I've been called to do, that I am going to be the absolute best at doing it. And so in whatever it is that I'm doing, it is going to be the best version of me. It is going to be the best of what I have the capacity to do. And if you continue to show up like that, if you continue to do the work, if you continue to put in the hours, you'll come to the point that you look around and you'll realize that when you look to your right and your left, you'll realize that you are in fact the best at what you do, and where you are right now with your skill set, with your experience, with where you are. And so you've got to require that from yourself. And so I don't know if I can think of somebody who better displays this, and one of my favorite performers of all time is Michael Jackson. I'm telling you, I can listen to the Michael Jackson greatest hits, and it's so unfortunate that he's no longer with us. But I can tell you right now, I remember watching, I believe it was Motown 25 or Motown, I forget the exact number, but by far, when I tell you, I remember being a little kid and watching that, and that was by far the most impressive performance I had ever seen in my life. And if you remember that performance, that was at Motown, and that's when Michael Jackson had first displayed the moonwalk, and everybody went absolutely crazy, and he did Billie Jean, and it was amazing. People were standing up, legends in the music industry, they were all standing up and they're looking, and you see, and by far, I tell you that by far, as somebody said, who is the greatest of all time, I'm going to tell you without a shadow of a doubt, it's Michael Jackson. And then I remember having an opportunity to seeing some behind the scenes footage of Michael Jackson in rehearsal, some behind the scenes footage of Michael Jackson in his element. And when you say, well, how did this guy become the very best at what he did? How does this guy enter an arena where there's not even an arena, just an open area where there's over 400,000 screaming fans, and people are literally passing out and fainting because they're screaming so hard? How does this one man entertain over 400,000 people? How does one man enter so many countries? How does one man be able to spellbind people who can't even speak his language? And when you look behind the scenes, what you realize is that this man only lived beyond the extra mile when it came to his preparation. He lived beyond the extra mile when it came to rehearsing. He went beyond the extra mile. You see, most musicians, all they're concerned about at first, and the only thing they pay attention to, is what they're going to do on the stage. No, not Michael Jackson. No, he wants to know what's going on with the lighting. He wants to know every single aspect of the show. He wants to make sure that it's going to be the right sound effects. He wants to make sure that there's going to be the right fire going off, the right lighting, every single detail of the show, because he holds himself to a higher standard, because he says to himself that I want and will be the absolute best at this thing that I do, this gift that I've been given. And so at some point, you've got to be willing to say to yourself that I want to be the best at what I do. And part of being the best means that you can't just look to aim to get beyond the extra mile, but you've got to live beyond the extra mile. So that means when your competition is sleeping, you're still up. When your competition is getting tired, you're still pushing forward. When your competition has given up because they receive 10, 15, 20, 30 no's, you're just getting warmed up. When your competition is around there and confused and frustrated because they're not getting the right support, because there's not the right people who's on their team and encouraging them, you say to yourself that I'm going to encourage myself. When your competition is deciding to cut corners, you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to over deliver, because I understand that impact drives income. And the more impact that I can make, the greater income that I can make. And so you've got to be willing to go the extra mile. And you do that by saying to yourself that not only do you say to yourself that I'm going to hold myself to a higher standard, but you also say to yourself that I want to be the absolute best at what it is that I do. And so I don't care what it is that you do. I don't care if you're a janitor. I don't care if you're a CEO of a company. I don't care if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're an attorney, if you're a speaker, if you're an author, if you're a caseworker, if you're a teacher, if you're a sanitation driver, whatever it is that you do, you've got to say within yourself that I'm going to be the best at this thing with the gifts that I have right now, with the skills that I have right now, with the breath that's in me, with the energy that I have. I'm going to show up in such a way that I'm going to stand out because I'm saying within myself, I'm holding myself to a higher standard, and I'm also willing and saying to myself that at this moment, with the skills that I have right now, I'm going to be the absolute best at what it is that I'm doing. And finally, if you're a note taker, I had you write this down, but I need to repeat this for you because I really need you to get this, especially for those of you who want to experience increase in your life. You want increase, but you're trying to figure out, well, how do I get the increase? How do I get the raise? How do I have more people enter my business? How do I get more opportunities? How do I have a more lucrative business? How do I get to the next level? And so when you ask yourself, how do you do that? You do that by doing more than what's expected of you. And I'm going to repeat it because I need you to write this down. If you do more than what you are paid for, you will eventually get paid more for what you do. And if you could just understand that concept, if when you're at the job and you're getting paid $20 an hour, if you deliver like somebody who's getting paid $50 an hour, if you're running a business and you're providing a service and your client has a certain level of expectation, but if you're willing to deliver more than what they expect, if you're somebody right now and you're working on developing a relationship, and you're pouring into a relationship, but if you understand what the expectations are in the relationship, but if you can find a way to go beyond the expectations, if any of those situations you can find a way to deliver more than what's expected of you, then ultimately at some point you will find greater fulfillment, greater compensation, greater results for what it is that you do. And if you could just understand that one little universal principle, what you'll find is you'll begin to experience increase in your life. You'll have increase in your finances. You'll have some increase in your health. You'll have increase in your relationships. You'll have increase on the job. Because what happened is people can see those who go the extra mile. Because why? Because most people would not even begin to enter the extra mile. Most people are trying to figure out how to get to the finish line by cutting corners, by taking a shortcut. And once they get to the finish line, they sit down, they stop. And so that's the reason why Wayne Dyer says that the extra mile is never really crowded, because most people don't want to go the extra mile, because going the extra mile means that you're going to have to get uncomfortable. Going the extra mile means that you're going to have to dig deep. Going the extra mile means that you're going to have to invest more time, more resources. Going the extra mile means that you're going to have to exceed expectations. Going the extra mile means that you're going to raise a higher standard of yourself. Going the extra mile says that you're going to be the best at what you do. But if you're willing to do that, then eventually you will get compensated one way or the other for more than whatever it is that you're doing. And so, lastly, it just makes me think about, my fiance, she has this amazing young lady who comes over to clean her condo. And we'll go out during the day and we head back to the condo. And when we get there, the condo will be absolutely spotless. But you can almost always count on her doing something extra. And so it's not her responsibility. It's not part of her cleaning obligations to completely organize the closet, but she'll do it. It's not part of her obligation to go ahead and reorganize the pantry, but she'll do it. It's not part of her responsibility to actually pull out pieces of furniture and so forth that most people would never pull out to get underneath, but she would do it. And because of the fact that she does it consistently, what happens is she has a set rate that she charges, but every single time it's time to cut the check, we end up paying her more than what her rate is. And the reason why is because she always delivers so much more value. And so what happens is many of us are expecting an increase. We want more. We want more people to come into our business. We want greater revenues within our business. We want more of a promotion. We want to have greater fulfillment. But what happens is we're taking a discounted approach in the way that we're showing up. And so in other words, we want more compensation, but we want to put in less work. We want more fulfillment and more satisfaction, but we want to put in less effort and energy. We want people to recognize us for what it is that we're doing, but we want to actually do less than what's required. And so see, that's sort of reverse. It's backward in the thinking. And so what you've got to be willing to do is exceed the expectations like this young lady, because she is living evidence that if you do more than what you are paid for, you will eventually get paid more for what you do. Why? Because people will be embarrassed to even pay you anything less because you deliver in such a way. Let me tell you, people who deliver beyond expectations, people who are living beyond the extra mile, you don't even feel comfortable asking them for a discount. As a matter of fact, you're ashamed to ask them for a discount. And make no mistake about it, nobody asks for more discounts or likes to negotiate more than Andy Henriquez. I tell people all the time that I have 7 favorite words that I like to say. Is that the best you can do? I say it all the time. That 7 words right there saves me literally thousands of dollars every single year. But there are some people that because they live beyond the extra mile, there are some people because they hold themselves to a higher standard. There are some people because they've resolved within themselves that they're going to be the best at what they do, because there are some people who do more than what they were paid for, and so eventually they get paid more for what they do. Because of some of those people, you're embarrassed to even ask them for a discount because of the way that they show up. And so I'm just going to ask you the question again. Well, what area in your life are you looking to break through? What area in your life are you looking to get to the next level? And whatever area in your life that you're looking to break through or get to the next level or experience increase, I just want to remind you that the only way that you're going to make it happen is to be willing to go the extra mile. Yeah. Because as Wayne Dyer would say, it's never, ever crowded along the extra mile. Go the extra mile. How bad do you want it? If you're a note taker, I want you to make sure that you grab a notepad and a pen, and I want you to write this down. How bad do you want it? And I was inspired by this message because some of you know I got married just last month in Mexico, and while I was in Mexico, the resort had this pool, and one of the activities by the pool was water polo. And you know what? I had never really officially played organized water polo, and for those of you who have no idea what water polo is, it's just basically a game that's played in the pool, in some kind of pool. We get in the pool, and there's basically 2 goals set on opposite ends of the pools, 2 separate teams. And similar to soccer and some of the other games, of course, the intention or the whole purpose of the game is to attempt to score and throw the ball into your opponent's net. And naturally, they do have goalkeepers and teammates. And so I thought that this was just going to be a very friendly game. I thought that this was just going to be an activity for some of our wedding guests and the people there. But lo and behold, before you knew it, this game got very, very serious. And the moments that it got very serious, there would be a moment in which somebody had the ball and somebody decided to abandon all the rules, and the person who had the ball would literally get attacked. And before you know it, you had about 5-6 people all around each other in a huddle, all fighting and pulling in order to grab the ball. And it was crazy because I had no idea that the game got that intense. I had no idea. I'm extremely competitive, and I had no idea that there'd be moments where we would literally be fighting for the ball. And so when I think about it, I realized that that ball that many of us were sort of huddled around in the pool, that ball that we were all pursuing, that ball that we were pushing and pulling and doing everything to walk away from, that ball that we put so much energy and effort in trying to be the one that walked away with that ball in many ways represents our goals and our dreams. And if you're somebody right now, you've got a goal or a dream or something that you've been wanting to pursue, something that you want to attain and you want it badly, I want you to think about what that thing is. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe perhaps you want to start a business. Maybe for you, you've always wanted to be able to tap into your goals and your gifts. Maybe for you, that it's because you always wanted to have a fulfilling relationship. Maybe for you, you've had the desire, the dream to be able to travel the world. I don't know what that goal, that desire, what that thing is for you, that thing that you want so badly that you can literally taste it, that thing that you want so badly that you're willing to pursue it, that thing that you want so badly that you're willing to fight for it, that thing that you want so badly that you're willing to jump in the water and make some things happen. And so I want you to think about what that thing is for you. And I wish that I could open up the lines right now and hear all of the things that you want. But I can tell you there's some things that I learned in the process of playing water polo that I believe that you can apply right now in pursuit of your goal, your dream, whatever it is, this thing that you want so badly. There's some universal lessons that I learned in the process of being in that pool and being in those moments when we're all sort of fighting for the same ball. I believe that there's some universal principles that you could apply right now to your personal life as you pursue your goals and your dreams and the things that you want. And so if you're a note taker, I want you to grab your paper and grab that pen. And the first thing that I want you to realize is when it comes to your goals and your dreams, that number one, that you have to pursue it. In other words, it's not going to come to you. You see, when we're in the pool and we're playing water polo, there was that critical moment where somebody had the ball in their hand. And one of the people on the opposing team would all of a sudden just bear hug this individual to try to get the ball. And then other teammates would notice that okay, there's a struggle here for the ball. And then everyone would sort of jump in and come after the ball. And then next thing you know, you had 5, 6, 7 guys all in the pool fighting for the same ball. They were all pursuing the same thing. Now, here's what I observed, and here's what I could tell you right now. That all the people who chose not to pursue the ball, one thing was guaranteed, they never ended up having the ball. And so the people who sat on the sidelines, those that said, hey, you know what, those guys are being too physical, they're being too rough, none of them ended up with the ball. And here's the other thing that I can tell you right now is that if you really wanted it, there are times where this struggle would start off on one side of the pool and it was moving, so you had to continually pursue it. And you see, the same thing applies to whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish right now. You see, if you're looking to start a business, trust and believe that this is something you're going to have to pursue. No one's going to come and just hand you a business. You see, if you've been wanting to write a book, you have to understand this is something that you have to pursue and be willing to put in the time, the effort, the energy. No one is just going to go ahead and hand you your book. You see, if there's something that you've been wanting to develop, this gift, this skill that you've been wanting to take to the next level, at some point you're going to have to pursue it. You're going to have to develop it and do the things that are required. Unfortunately, no one's going to just come and hand it to you. You see, for some of you who know my story, and I get asked this question all the time, they say, Andy, help us to understand, Andy. I mean, at one point you're the CPA, you're working for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and you're with this company, and now you are a motivational speaker, a professional speaker, a strategic storytelling coach, a trainer. I don't get it. How did you make the leap? And you see, when they asked me that question, I wish I could say, one day I was sitting in my corporate office and somebody just came and opened the door and said, hey, Andy, you know what? Do you want to become a coach? Hey, Andy, do you want to become a speaker? Hey, Andy, we believe that there's something in you, and we just want to present you with an opportunity to be able to get on the stage and talk to people. We want to present you with an opportunity to go on national television. We want to present you with an opportunity to earn thousands of dollars speaking in 1 hour. We want to present you with that opportunity. I wish that that's the story, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. You see, I had to pursue it. I had to make the conscious decision that this was something that I wanted. And you see, in order for me to pursue it, I had to relinquish and I had to walk away from what I already knew. I had to step away from what was comfortable for me. I had to step away from the fact that I had spent all this time getting my college education. I had to step away from the fact that I was working with this amazing company. I had to step away from the fact that I had a check that was hitting my bank account every 2 weeks. See, I had to walk away from that, and I had to set my eyes and my intentions on the thing that I wanted to pursue. And at the moment, what I wanted to pursue was to become an entrepreneur. And eventually that developed into me pursuing developing my gift and my skills and my talents as a speaker. And then I had to pursue a career as a professional speaker. What I'm trying to get you to understand is that no one is going to hand you whatever it is that you want in life. No. You see, when we were in that pool, no one ever decided to just walk up and just hand somebody the ball. No, if you wanted the ball, you had to pursue it. And the same thing applies to your goals and your dreams. So I want you to think about right now, what is it that you need to pursue? And what do you need to do in the midst of the pursuit in order to get closer to the ball, in order to get closer to your dream, in order to get closer to writing that book, in order to get closer to you actually going back and getting the degree, in order to get closer to that new position that you want in your company, in order to get closer to the opportunity to be able to use this gift, this skill talent that you have, and be able to turn your passion and this talent that you have into profits, to monetize it. The only way that you're going to be able to do that is you're going to have to pursue it. And so if you've been waiting on the sidelines, you've been waiting on somebody to come hand it to you, allow me to save you some time and help you to realize that you're going to have to pursue it. So that's the first thing that I need you to write down on your paper, is not only do you start off with the title, how bad do you want it? But when the answer is, I want it really, really bad, then the first thing is you've got to be willing to pursue it. Write that down. Now, once you have decided that you're going to pursue it, and so whatever that means for you, whether it means that you're going to have to now go to personal development events, whether it means you're going to have to start getting some coaching, whether it means you're going to have to leave your comfort zone, whether it means that you're going to have to start working and developing your talents, your skills, your gifts, whatever it means for you, once you get in the process of pursuing it, here's the other thing that I need you to write down. I need you to understand, you will have to put up a fight. That's right. At some point along the process, you will have to fight for your goals. You will have to fight for your dreams. Let me tell you something. At first, when we were playing water polo and somebody had the ball And the next thing you know, one of the opponents put their hands on the ball. And then another teammate came to help out. And next thing you know, it was 6, 7 people all going after the ball. Make no mistake about it, it literally turned into a fight. We were fighting for the ball. I can remember at moments wanting to get that ball and sticking my hands in there. And once I had my hands on the ball, I remember throwing my elbows. I remember putting my weight against the person on my right and my left. I remember trying to push them in different angles. We were literally fighting for the ball. And make no mistake about it, as I was throwing elbows, there was elbows coming back at me. As I was pushing forward, people were pushing back at me. As I was trying to pull someone's arm off, somebody was trying to pull my arm off. You see, it was an all-out fight. And let me tell you something. When you're going after your goals and your dreams, yeah, this thing that you really want, this thing that you've been pursuing, make no mistake about it, you will have to fight. You see, somebody once said this: you may not get everything that you fight for in life, but everything you get in life, you will have to fight. Write that down. That's right. You may not get everything that you fight for in life. So you understand that there are going to be some moments that you put up a fight. You're going to go after some things and you just may not get it. But make no mistake about it, that the things that you do acquire in life, the things that you do accomplish, your goals and your dreams, this thing that you are pursuing, in order for it to happen, you will have to fight for it. And so the question is, are you willing to put up a fight? Are you willing to encounter some struggles? Are you willing to get some bumps and bruises along the way? I can tell you that, I left corporate America in 2004. And so it's been literally 10 years. It's been a decade now since I've been on this journey pursuing my goals and my dreams. But let me tell you something. Throughout that journey, I've had to put up some fights. There's been some things that have happened in that journey in which I had to put up a physical fight. There are some things that happened in that journey where I had to put up a mental fight to not retreat and go back and ask for my job back. A mental fight to believe that it was possible that I could make some things happen. A mental fight to stretch and grow and be able to develop and do the things that I'm doing right now. That it's been a fight to learn and acquire new skills. It's been a fight to figure out the information and figure out the right way to do things and the wrong way to do things. It's been a fight to figure out systems and the different ways to make things happen. It's been a fight to get clients and ensure that I can make some things happen. Let me tell you something, that when you're talking about going after your goals and your dreams, that you will have to fight. Along the process, you're going to encounter some struggles. Along the process, there may be times that you second guess yourself. Along the process, there may be times that you even want to quit. Along the process, you may be asking yourself that, why did I even want this? But let me tell you this, if you answered the question at the very beginning when I asked you, how bad do you want it? And if you're saying to yourself that, Andy, I want it really, really bad. I mean, I want to start this business really, really bad. I want to get this degree really, really bad. I want to be able to double, triple my income really, really bad. I want to be able to get out of debt really bad. I want to have a fulfilling relationship really bad. I want to be able to strengthen my faith really bad. When you answer and you say to yourself that I want this thing really bad, then what it means is that you're going to have to fight, and understand that in the process of fighting, you may very well get hurt. In the process of fighting, you may encounter some bumps and some bruises. In the process of fighting, you may find something that knocks you out temporarily. In the process of fighting, you may even get knocked down on the ground. But realize this, that here's what Stephen Duncanson said. He said that life, including this thing that you're pursuing in your life, trust and believe that it is a battle for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. That's what he said. He said, once you stop fighting for what you want, to write that book. Once you stop fighting for what you want, to take your business to the next level. Once you stop fighting for what you want, to be able to tap into your goals and your dreams and make this thing that's in you to come forward. Once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. What you don't want, mediocrity. What you don't want, to look back and say, only if I would have tried. What you don't want, the regret of having not pursued your goals and your dreams. What you don't want, to know that you didn't give it your all. What you don't want to know in your heart that there's still some gifts, some treasures, some talents that are in you. You know, Dr. Miles Monroe, who unfortunately has recently passed away. This man was a thought leader. This man was an author. This man was an extraordinary individual. He was a pastor, a minister, a father, a brother. And one of the quotes that he's most known for, and I'm going to paraphrase it for you, but what he was helping people to understand is that one of the richest places in the planet is not where you would expect it to be. He was explaining that the richest places in the planet is not where you expect it to be, where you would find the oils in the world. It's not where you would find some of the precious gems in the world. It's not all these places that you would expect the riches of the world to be. No, he said no. He said the richest places in the world are where? He says it's in the graveyard. And people say, well, what do you mean, Dr. Miles Monroe? How could the richest place in the world be the graveyard? But he says because it is there in the graveyard that you'll find books that weren't written. It is there in the graveyard that you'll find businesses that weren't started. It is there in the graveyard that you will find individuals with their dreams and all the things that they wanted still in them that they didn't give birth to. And so what I'm saying to you is this: understand that somewhere along the process, somewhere along the journey, unless you want to go to your grave with your dreams, with your talents, with your gifts, and all the things that you have to offer in you, you're going to have to be willing to put up a fight. Yeah. You got to fight. And so the question is, are you willing to put up a fight? Which brings me back to the original question of how bad do you want it? You see, if you've been taking notes, you know that number one is when you want your goals and your dreams bad enough, number one, you've got to be willing to pursue it. And if you've been taking notes, you know that number two is that you've got to be willing to put up a fight. Why? Because you may not get everything that you fight for in life, but everything that you get in life, you will have to fight for it. And here's what I know: if you don't fight for it, like when we were in the pool and we were playing water polo, if you don't fight for it, trust and believe that somebody else is willing to fight for it. Somebody else will take your place. Somebody else will act on your goals, your dreams. Somebody else will write the book. Somebody else will start the business. Somebody else will do the invention. Somebody else will step in your place. So you've got to be willing to fight. Now, here's the third thing that I need you to understand, and this is the key. If you want to come out victorious, you have to want it more than anyone else. I want you to write that down. You have to want it more than anyone else. Let me tell you something. You know what? If we had the ability when we were playing water polo, if we had the ability to press the pause button when you saw about 8, 6, 7 men all fighting for the ball, if we had the ability to pause hit a pause button in real time and just hold the frame for a moment and allowed you to analyze where the ball was and analyze all the people who are fighting for the ball. And so you would say to yourself, okay, well, I'm looking at this guy. He's about 6'3". He's about 230 pounds. He's got about 4 of his fingers on the ball with his right hand, and he's barely got a grip over there to the left. Now you've got this other guy here. This guy is probably about 5'7", probably about 170 pounds, okay? And he's got just a little bit of his hand on the ball. Okay, we've got this other guy here. Now let's see here. This guy is about 5'11". He's about 215 pounds. Let's see where he's gripped. You see, now you could have attempted to do a mathematical calculation by looking at the physiques, by looking to see how good of a grip they had on the ball, by looking to see if anybody else was pulling their arms back and so forth. But here's one thing that you wouldn't be able to account for. And let me tell you something, what I observed at the end of the day, the person who came out with the ball was not always the strongest person. It wasn't always the person who had the best grip originally. No, the person person who came out with the ball was the person who wanted it the most, because that was the person that was willing to fight tooth and nail for it. That was the person that when we got to the point where we had been fighting for the ball for quite some time and fatigue started to kick in, and other people who were stronger, other people who had a better grip because of the fatigue decided to let go. That was the person that when other people said to themselves, hey, you know what, this is just a game, it's not that serious, let me go ahead and pull back. No, that's the person that said to themselves that no matter what, I'm the one that's coming out with this ball. That's the type of mindset, that's the type of mentality that's required in order for you to come out with that ball. And let me tell you something, the same thing applies to life. When you're talking about your goals and your dreams, when you're talking about making this thing happen, this thing that you've been really wanting, this thing that you've been pursuing, that you've got to get to the point where you've got to say to yourself that I want this more than anybody else. I want this more than the person on my right. I want this more than the person on my left. No disrespect to them, and I'm not wishing them any bad luck. All I'm saying is if they are going after the same thing that I'm pursuing, trust and believe, if we both are going to get the same opportunity and everything else is even, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to get it every time. Why? Because I want it more than they do. And so you've got to resolve within yourself that I want this thing, whatever it is for you, more than anybody else. That's what it's going to require. That's what it's going to take in order for you to come out victorious, in order for you to make this thing happen. You know, just the other day on my monthly coaching call, I had the opportunity to have this gentleman be one of our guest speakers. And he started a company, and when he first started the company, he was fortunate enough to have two of his business partners that joined him in his second year of starting the company. And when his business partners came aboard of this technology firm that he has, that something extraordinary happened. I mean, business just skyrocketed. And they had over $1 million in gross sales, and this is within 1 year of his partners coming and joining him in the business. I mean, things were great. But what happened is the following year was an election year. The following year, unfortunately, there were some changes in the economy. The economy began to shift, and many of the accounts and the clients that they had, many of those clients went out of business. Many of those individuals that they had been banking on were no longer consumers. They were no longer clients. And unfortunately, this company that at one point made over $1 million in gross sales, this company was now struggling. Not only were they struggling, but they had accumulated quite a bit of debt. And he says that when it got to that point, some real difficult decisions had to be made. Because now the company was no longer profitable. Now the company had 3 owners. On top of that, the company had quite a bit of debt. And on top of that, unfortunately, they lost most of their major accounts. And he said that when things got really, really, really difficult, he said both of his business partners right away realized that the company was no longer profitable, realized that the economy had shifted, realized that they had lost all type of clients. Both of his business partners immediately decided that they wanted to withdraw from the business. And not only did they want to withdraw from the business, but they decided that they were going to go back and become employees. So they started submitting resumes and decided to go back and get a regular job. And not only that, but because of the fact that the business had so much debt, both of them were willing to go ahead and relinquish all of their ownership interests in the business because they didn't want to be responsible for all of the debt. And now here's this guy who is the only man standing. Both of his business partners decided to go back and get regular jobs. Both of his business partners have decided to sign off on their ownership interests because they have basically counted the business as being dead and they don't want to be responsible for the debt. And so they've signed off. And then here's what they didn't know. What they didn't know is that this man wanted it bad enough. What they didn't know was that he was going to be willing to fight. What they didn't know was that he was going to dedicate the next 2 years to rebuilding the business. What they didn't know is that he would regrow the business, in which gross sales would go to $2.7 million. You see, what they didn't know was that he would find different avenues and different ways to acquire new customers. What they didn't know is that he would eventually pay off the debt, the very debt which was the reason why both of the other business partners were willing to sign off on their ownership interest. You see, what they didn't know was that he wanted it really, really, really bad. Bad enough to go through the process, bad enough to be curled up in his bed and avoiding phone calls from creditors, bad enough to be late on his mortgage, bad enough to be up late night trying to figure out how he was going to be able to keep the business going, bad enough to be calling up debtors and working out payment plans, bad enough to be on the internet and trying to figure out new ways to create additional streams of income in the business, bad enough to start getting up every day and going to different meetings and finding ways to capture new clients. He wanted it really, really bad. And so my question for you is, when it comes to your goals and your dreams, whatever it is that you're working on right now, how bad do you want it?